Tamily. It's time for our next Ask Tamily interview. And I have to check what number we're on. We are on 130. 130 Ask Tamily interviews. Our guest today will be Kathy, and her Instagram name is 70overtam. So we will have her joining in just a minute. And we do have questions planned. But as always, live questions are the most fun. So you can type in your question at any time. We'll make sure that we go through the whole chat before the end of the interview and ask all of the questions. Okay, there's Kathy. Let me just send her a request. Connecting in just a second. Hi, Kathy.
Hello.
Thank you for being our 130th Ask Tamily interview.
Can you even believe that?
I can't. I'm never going to believe it.
You're going up on 3 years.
It's crazy. It really is. Well, thank you so much for being our next interview. We're really excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Good.
So let's jump right in with some of our planned questions. And then, of course, we'll take questions from the chat too. But
okay.
Our first and our favorite question to ask is, when and how did you start doing the Tracy Anderson method?
Okay. But first I have to say thank you. And you and Nicole, it's just amazing. I love listening to these things. I always learn something. And, it's so amazing. So thank you. I know everybody the same way.
Yeah, we love it too. And we learn things every single week too. I just think it's an awesome way to connect.
I agree. So let's see. I think I first found Tracy in 2003.
Okay.
So I was looking for, the bands in the, and I love that idea of that kind of resistance. And so I went and then I found her videos and stuff because I lived outside of Boston, so I wasn't near a studio or anything. But then I thought if you just bought the videos, that's all you had to do. Mm-hmm. So between 2003 and about 2014, I bought everything, but I hardly ever did it. Sometimes I would just watch it to kind of understand it. And every now and then I would get down on my hands and knees and do something, but I never really did. And then, I got married and my husband was a coach. And so we started doing Perfect Design Series #2 together.
Okay.
And that was in like 2016.
Okay.
And then I got into it, and then I started streaming, and then I started like keeping a log in 2018.
Okay.
So I kept a log every day since then.
That's amazing. Do you know how many Tracy workouts you've done?
I've never counted like you did, but I've taken my log books and I've averaged them by week. Like, I average probably between 5 and 6 times a week.
Wow. That is so awesome. That is awesome. You have to add them up, though, and see how many you have.
I will. But you know what? Last week, was it Yaslin? Is that her name?
Yeah.
When she said that she never had a problem of getting to the mat, I about fell over. I was like, what? And I thought, we are all so different in how we come to this because, oh my God, I have to argue with myself that's 2-3 years of arguing with myself.
Even during the workout sometimes, I'm like, you will do the next move.
Good. Yeah, no, once I get there, I'm okay. But
good.
So I started, and I'm old and I've always been relatively interested in exercise. I I did everything but my thesis for a master's degree in kinesiology from UCLA.
Okay.
It isn't that I don't understand it, but understanding it and doing it are two different parts of personality.
Right, absolutely. So now you're streaming and you usually do attain?
Yeah, I do. I'll go back and forth. I'll look at attain and I'll say, oh no, that's not for me. And then I'll get sucked into it with my Zoom partners. And then I'll realize, oh, well, if I did this 6 days and then I'm always shocked every single time that by the 6th day, I'm doing something that on the first, you would think by now I'd say, oh, it's hard now, but you'll be able to do it later. No, I always say, no, I can't do it. And then, I modify some things. I'm not great at the flip over move. I just don't have, I'm always saying to my husband, I wish I had a harness that could hang me from the ceiling.
Right.
And then I could flip over without fear.
Yeah, that's a key factor, because a lot of the time we think it's a physical reason that we can't do something, and it's not. It's mental.
No, yeah. But yeah, so I would say I do attain maybe 70% of the time I do attain.
Okay, so you try fundamental, and what about start?
Yeah, I do that too. I do them all. I really do. There's certain, sometimes, like last week, the arms on IMC were so wonderful. They were so different. They were like slow, and I loved them. So I don't, like this week she said don't jump around. And so I thought, okay, maybe I really will solidly try attain.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get one flip over. I don't know.
Are you liking the towel moves in attain?
Yes, see, I like props.
Okay.
I love the chair. I love the ball. I don't know. I love props. Yeah, I like the towel.
So we got a question from Miriam, because she's probably asleep right now. But
yeah,
we wanted to ask you that question, and it kind of has to do with this topic. So she asked, how do you approach the advanced class each week if you're certain that there's moves that you can't do? And why would you sometimes still choose to do that class versus another class?
Right. Part of it is because I've gotten into this Zoom group, and so and they're more advanced than I am. So I feel like, well, if I say to them, oh, let's do IMC, that, they'll do it, but I know that they sometimes would rather do what they're doing, right? So, or they'll just say, let's do attain. And so then I have to say, okay. So I really am happiest if I spend some time with Madison.
Okay.
So yesterday I was driving in the car and I was watching kind of the breakdown. And so I'm like, I know I must, but I thought, well, at least if I get it in my head a little, but yeah, I don't know. I think I spent a good deal of time yesterday just staring at Tracy going, what? Trying to remember the moves. So sometimes I write them down, that helps. But I think to answer a long answer to the easy question, I really try to know that it will change. I try to remember. Now I have a logbook where I write down these things, and then I'll go back and say, look, remember what you said last Monday? And then on the following, whatever, you said something different, and you just have to trust your body.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think it's a combination of, FOMO and
right.
And then just trying to say, okay, I can do this. And I don't beat myself up. I don't expect that I can do everything. What I'm really learning right now, my biggest message to myself is how light on my knees can I be? Because for a whole year, I've really worked on the planking up into 1 foot. And this week it's on you lift one hand. And so I keep thinking, Madison always talks about that energy going up. And I really see that Tracy never looks like all her weight is in her knees, where I look like I'm just ka-kung, ka-kung. And so I've been trying to, okay, what would that be like if I were like Tinkerbell?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to think that way. It's definitely tough to do, and you have to remind yourself of it. Like sometimes with a move, it's like it seems so hard and I feel so heavy in the move. And
Right.
then something just clicks and it's like, oh, actually this isn't that difficult. Like,
Well, one day she was talking about her floor, and I have terrible, because my exercise room is a garage that was made into another room. So it's concrete floor underneath and then carpet. And when we move the next time, I'm definitely going to get a Tracy floor. Mm-hmm. But she was talking about it isn't just the cardio. It's that when you're doing the push off, you're getting some help from that floor in a uplift, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could use that.
Yeah, that's a great point, that it's really not just about the cardio. It's helpful for all of it.
Yeah, because you have some buoyancy, and so that's my keyword this week, buoyancy. Like, yeah, do Tracy in the water. Wouldn't that be fun?
We could try it for sure. Well, we already have a couple questions in the chat for you. So Plain Tip has 2 questions. She said, your hair is stunning. What is your hair secret? And she also wants to know where you live.
Okay. I live in Oregon. I live out in the country in Oregon. And I have the best hairdresser on the planet. Her name is Mish in Portland. But for a long time, I don't color my hair, which is kind of unusual for being 71. I don't have a whole lot of gray up in there. So, but my hairdresser was always trying to get me to put some streaks in my hair. So we did put some streaks in there. But then COVID happened and my hair just started like Rapunzel. It was just growing and growing. And so when I went to get my first haircut, she was like, wow, let's just leave it long. Why not? So I have this long hair now.
Excellent. We love it. Thanks. We have a question from Deb, or you might understand menopausal. She said, sorry if this is too personal, and ignore it if you want, but how was menopause for you? Are you open to talking about that?
Sure. You know what? I could have had if I'd had a good man, I would have had a baby when I was 57. I swear. I have one child. She was born when I was 39. I was born when my mother was 43, and my mother was born in 1905 when her mother was 44.
Wow.
So we elderly women just are long spanners. So I didn't go through menopause until I was like 60.
Okay.
And I didn't, I had some hot flashes, but I don't, even when I had my period, I never had cramps or anything. I'm just one of those people where that just it wasn't a big thing.
That's
kind of.
amazing.
So, but I've always been a huge believer in exercise, although between 50 and 60, I gained a lot of weight, and I was probably 100 pounds overweight. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, have you ever considered gastric bypass? I was so insulted. I was like, how dare you say that? Whatever. So she said, well, you're pre-diabetic, and we found that it's a great cure for that. So I went home and thought about it. And my God, 3 months later, I had gastric bypass in 2010.
Okay.
And it changed my life because I just have gotten heavier. I was always an active person. So I know a lot of people that have, I was part of a support group and stuff. I know a lot of people that get really heavy, don't exercise. And there's a million reasons, but that really wasn't me. But, I did find that there's so much bias against being overweight in our culture. I made $50,000 more a year after I lost weight.
Oh my gosh.
And I was convinced it was because of, I worked in like architecture and construction, and I think images, whatever. But yeah, so when I was lucky enough to do an Ask Tracy at the very end of her, when she would do them in the car.
Yeah.
The one she did with me was in Madrid.
Okay.
She said, you're never going to get all that skin. I'm not going to wear a bikini. I didn't wear a bikini anyway. So I do have skin, but not so much on my arms, because I think the method really does do what she promises if you put in the work. I'm not expecting my stomach to look beautiful, but I think the rest of me is looking pretty good for my age.
We agree with that. How do you personally get and stay motivated to work out so regularly?
I think part of it is COVID was a real help, because it's like, and Suzanne, you know this, probably you and Nicole better than almost anybody, is that, like, are these real friendships that we have with each other? Are they in a different plane or something? It's weird. But when I think about it, I see Miriam, Renata, Laura, Alicia, Jillian, Gila, Hallie, Debbie, Colleen, Kristen, multiple times in a week. I don't see my friends every day. So what keeps me motivated are these amazing people that you just want to share just a little bit of time with. And I know we don't all feel the same way about Trump, although I hope we do, or we don't all feel the same way about religion or science or whatever it is, but we do all share this desire to be whole with our bodies.
Exactly. That is like such the uniting factor. And I think even though it's like this physical thing, anyone that's really dedicated to the method is staying in it for a lot of other reasons versus like why we come to it. And that and the personality, like the dedication, the loyalty, those kind of traits are like the things that are similar about all of us that I think do make really, really real friendships that are sometimes only virtual and we never actually meet each other.
Yeah. And isn't that something odd about our time?
Yeah.
Something that, it reminds me, when I was a little girl, I had a pen pal who lived in England. And those letters would come and I would be so excited. And then I heard a story of, no, it wasn't, I met a woman who married her pen pal.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh my God, but I think there's, it's an odd time, and maybe even post-COVID, we'll continue to do this.
Well, and, I think we're really lucky because we had virtual workouts and
already,
we're connected through Instagram. So it wasn't a hard transition for us to end up with, I don't know, probably 24 workouts a day available for people to join by Zoom everywhere. Exactly. And just step more into that world. Like, I really think of what people lost who were going to real gyms. Like, we just enhanced what we already had.
Right.
And I think it's made it, even stronger than ever, even though to me, it's like the strongest, positive, widest community possible. But through this, definitely, it's like even more.
Totally. And I did take Tracy's advice to heart last week, where she was reflecting on the whole Zoom movement, and and I think she was worried that when people were moving, I think most people, when you're moving, I mean, I'm not looking to, I mean, every now and then I might look to say, what am I doing? Maybe I can tell what Miriam's doing. I can see, but I think I try to be true to, this is my time in my space with me. And so I understood what she was warning. Maybe that was a warning, like, it isn't about, well, I'm sure in a studio, you don't serve yourself by looking around at everybody.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do get a cue and you say, oh, her hand is that, maybe you could see that on Tracy, but you could see it on Jillian or something,
Yeah, there's definitely, like, whether it's trainers or other Tamily, it's like something just clicks with the move when you see another person doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So have you ever been to a Vitality Week or a Tracy studio?
I've never been to a Vitality Week. I've been to a studio. I've been to the studio in Brentwood, which is like 2 blocks from where I used to live.
Oh.
And so what was funny though, I so was excited about the bands, did a couple of band classes, and then I let go by mistake, and that thing came and slapped me in the, like you would not believe. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I got the message. Like,
right.
I've done that, and I would love to do a Vitality Week. And I remember there was a time, it was about, I guess it was like 2018, when they were thinking of doing one in the Pacific Northwest, but it never happened. So,
well, hopefully they're in our future again one day. What did you think about the heat and humidity in the studio, and do you use heat and humidity at home?
I didn't think, I don't know, I went, the Brentwood studio, it wasn't that overwhelming the way other people talk about the 59th Street studio or something. And because I was a yoga person for so many years, I was used to hot yoga. And I have a heater and I have a humidifier, but the thing is, I worry because the water starts dripping off the ceiling and off the wall, and I think it might not be very good for the space I'm in. So I've kind of toned down the humidity.
Yeah. I especially like the Tamily members that have places lined in plastic. I'm like, that's probably something that's necessary.
Right. And I'm not. And then Tracy did say in my Ask Tamily, I think she was giving my age a break. And so she was like, yeah, 75 degrees, that's fine, or something like that. So I shoot for maybe, well, I used to have a studio that I could get really hot, and it didn't matter what was going on with humidity. But now I'm more careful. So maybe, 75 to 80 degrees.
Okay.
I wish I could do more.
Yeah. How would you describe doing a studio workout with a trainer versus Tracy with streaming?
I think I would look at it the way, if we were learning a language and we went into the teacher and got a tutor to help us. But you wouldn't want to do it every day, I don't think, because I would think eventually you'd want to own it yourself. So I think it would be great to have, I've had personal trainers in my life, but I think that when I would go to a personal trainer regularly, I kind of would turn off me a little bit, and I would just do what I was ordered to do. Whereas I think streaming it, you own it more. Yes, because you're watching, but you're not being told. So the being told has to come from within. So I think some help and some tutoring is, if I had enough money, I would do it more often. But I think Tracy's talks are like the tutoring.
Yeah.
And so, and I really enjoyed the performance when it was the premium, when the muscular structure talks, where she would demonstrate. I got a lot out of that.
Yeah, those are really good too. But I think you're right. It's kind of like supplementing what you're getting, and having like the tutoring, which is good sometimes. But Tracy makes the point that like when you own the results, when you own the experience, it's so much more different than like you even burn more calories than if, like, especially in other methods where people are like yelling instructions at you, like that it's not achieving what happens when it comes from internally.
One of my favorite of her DVDs is still the original Matt video. And whenever I'm getting too big for my britches, I do the arms on that, and that's a great humbling experience.
Yes.
And but I have done that so many times that I'm like, I know exactly what she's going to say when she says it. You can, and you simply must. And I'm like doing the whole dialogue with
Oh, that's funny.
But it does take you a little bit out of yourself, and I think that's why she doesn't do it. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have a couple more questions in the chat for you. So Sveta would like to know if you have any suggestions other than the method for aging gracefully.
Love. Love, love, love. That's got to be right at the top of the list. Love of animals, children, men, women. It doesn't matter. Just, right? When we're in that state, it keeps us young. So I would say love. Obviously the basics, water and, healthy food and being outside and, and I also think learning something, keeps you in the beginner's mind. It's why I go back to start a lot of times, because I want to be back in a beginner for a moment. I want to remember, and I want to be happy that I can do a hydrant now. Remember when I didn't, So I think a beginner's mind is a very good tool in your toolbox for anti-aging. That's
an excellent point.
And I would love a facelift, but I can't afford it. So it's like, that's another thing.
I want to ask you a question, especially since you said love is a way to age gracefully. Can you tell us about how you met your husband?
Yes. So I have a great love story. So my husband and I were living in Southern California, and I love that I'm just talking to Tamily people, so I can just be, frank.
Yes.
So I was 17, he was 18. He was the first person I ever had sex with. And then he went to Berkeley to college. We were in California, and I was still in high school. And he came back and he broke up with me on November 5th. And then I basically didn't really, I saw him once, but basically I didn't really see him for 46 years. And so he sent me a happy birthday on Facebook. And I was just like, wow, he's so far away. I lived in Boston. He lived in Oregon. So then one of my closest friends challenged me to do a gratitude practice. And I had to send a thank you note to a single man. And I'm like, I don't know any single men. I thought, okay, I could send Hunt a thank you note for that birthday greeting back in May that I never acknowledged. And I did. And a month later, we were engaged.
Oh my gosh.
And then we got married at Crater Lake, which is like one of the most incredible places on the planet. And So what's weird is, part of our being together is like 17, 18, because that was, but then luckily over the years, we both have daughters that are in their 30s. Um, we share. So what happened was he wrote me an email and he kind of laid out his politics. And it was like, politics are really important to me. So if you can't buy into that, yeah. And I wrote back to him, oh, God, sign me up. And then I wrote back to him, my two former husbands are my best friends. So if you can't buy into that, we don't need to go any further either.
Yeah.
And so he was like, no, that's fine. That's great. So we have a lovely love story. Yeah. And we've been married now 6 years.
That is amazing. That is so amazing. Oh my gosh. I knew the tiniest bit about that and I was amazed. Hearing the whole thing is amazing.
But it's really funny because imagine if you were 17 and someone said, oh, don't cry, little girl. When you're 64, you're going to marry him. You would go, oh, yuck. I'm not going to ever be 64. That's a disgusting thought, And so, but it also shows you that you don't know what's coming your way in life.
Yeah.
You need to be ready. Yeah. And I think I was ready. And I think the way I felt about my body made me more inclined to feel better, stuff like that helps you feel more sexy or more alive or more whatever, right?
Right, exactly. Gosh, and thinking about that too, like doing something small, like saying happy birthday to someone or sending a thank you note can impact a life.
Exactly.
That is amazing.
Unbelievable.
Well, we've got, I think, a couple more questions in the chat. We're not going to get to like hardly any of our planned questions, but that's My Wellness Theory would like to know, what kind of workouts did you do before the Tracy Anderson method?
Oh God. I've always been a workout person, right? And in the 70s and early 80s, I worked out with Richard Simmons.
Oh my gosh.
With Renee Russo, who was at the Anatomy Asylum in Beverly Hills.
Oh my gosh.
I remember one Thanksgiving, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I went and did a workout. I could not sit down on Thanksgiving without holding myself up and lowering myself down. My quads were, he would do these insane workouts, and I mean insane, truly.
Oh my gosh.
And so I've always been a person who loves exercise. So I did, but then I think I was really in my 60s, late 50s, I became a yoga addict. Mm-hmm. So I did yoga all the time, every kind of yoga imaginable, hot yoga, cold yoga, yin yoga, any kind of yoga.
Do you ever do yoga anymore, or you really only Tam?
I really only do Tamily. If someone said, let's go do a yoga class, I might do it. My daughter is an amazing yoga woman. But I think Tracy's probably right about I'm super flexible, and she's probably right about the skin part.
Okay.
That I can do the splits, but my gracilis muscle doesn't look so great on my inner thigh. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a trade-off.
Right. Emily has a question for you. What is your favorite music?
Oh, wow. Oh, God. Not Tracy's.
We're all in that club.
except in the beginning. Oh my God, here I am, an old lady, and I'd be like downloading, I'd be doing Shazam to all the workouts. I have a whole collection of music that I never would have been exposed to without that. So then I get the whole money part of it and why she had to switch over, which is really too bad because I started buying that music. I wasn't used to it. So, of course, we all know, and I have to do a shout out to Emily. So, Emily and you and Liz Rhodes, you were my first Instagram. Come on in. So, if I had my way, I have a whole. Sometimes I do just Pat Metheny. Sometimes I do just Broadway. Sometimes I do a whole mishmash of stuff. And Miriam keeps me on modern rap, which I probably wouldn't go to if left to my own devices.
It's good to know we're exposing you to stuff like that.
So sometimes when Miriam doesn't realize it, I get my iPhone and I do Broadway, and I turn down the other, and then I come back into it. I do both, and I know she's so wonderful. She puts songs in there for me because she knows, like I like Stevie Wonder or I like Bruce Springsteen, or she'll do some throwbacks for me.
Yeah, those are good songs too. We can't forget about them.
Exactly.
Jane has a question for you. She says, where do you get your body confidence?
Oh, God. Man. If you asked me if I had body confidence, I would probably say no, I don't. But then I would probably say, well, maybe I do. I think it comes from moving and your heart, that you find that inside you, But I do think it's super hard in our culture that we are, and maybe even because of my age, even more of what, when I was 16 in 1967, who was held up as the ultimate. Whereas I think now a 16-year-old has lots of body types to choose from. We're not so narrowly. So for so many years, my self-talk was very cruel. Really cruel. And it wasn't until, maybe in the last 10 years or more that I'm not so hard on myself anymore. Which is really sad because that's a lot of years of being mean to myself. I remember having a therapist once who said to me, this weekend, I don't want you to say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to your daughter. And so I think I grew up in a time of, the birth of women's liberation and all that, which was fantastic. But there were also these very strong, like, what is beautiful? How thin can you be? You can't be too thin or too rich. And I hope people don't have that quite so much now, that it's more about healthy, being able to move, being able to be flexible. Now I want to be able to bend over, pick something up, have stamina to spend the whole day with my grandson.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we have evolved in that thinking, but it's so hard, like when you talk about the negative self-talk, and I think of all the benefits we get from this method and how, like, that's changed how I think about myself internally and everything. But there's still struggles with it. Like, the societal aspects are so much stronger than what you can do with yourself every day. And it's like a constant battle.
I know, and I think it's like, I do think that there is a core truth with Tracy that please don't do this if the only reason you're doing it is to get your body ready for a bikini.
Yeah.
But but yet, why not? I mean, right? But I think she expects that it will move from being an exterior something, it will be sounded down into your heart, and that's where if it could live there, it would serve you a lot better.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, maybe it doesn't happen obviously for everyone, but for many, many Tamily, they came to the method for a physical reason, but they stay for the other reasons. And the physical is like, oh, that's a really good side effect, but that is not like the reason that we're here.
Exactly. Yeah. Like my husband told me that my butt is perkier now than it was when I was 17. I mean, how many people can say that? So that is a huge thing, but that isn't like the whole reason to do it, right? But it's just a huge frosting on the cake, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It definitely improves the experience.
Definitely.
We have another question for you from My Breezy Summer. She said, have you always been so true to yourself? You look and sound positively natural.
Probably to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
My job was everything.
Mm-hmm.
I sacrificed way too much with my daughter, probably, yes, for my job because I wanted money and I felt like that was security. I was a single mother. So not working has been a huge life changer. And it's not that I don't work, but not working in the same way I'm going to a job. So I think I've always been a searcher. I've always been a seeker of understanding the unconscious, or trying to be a whole person. But there's certainly been times in my life where I sacrifice, probably my priorities probably weren't really what they should have been. And just like, was it the other day, someone posted a Tracy thing and it was like, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I thought, yeah, we all have that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you say to her?
Oh my Lord. What would I really say? I would say, what my father said to me once? This is really strange. My father said, whatever you do, don't lose weight and gain weight. Your skin's going to look terrible. So I was like, my father said that, who was not like a particularly bodied person, whatever. So I might say that, like, that's not, I might talk about the skin part. But mostly I probably would understand that a 20-year-old doesn't really want to listen to a 71-year-old.
Even if it's like herself from the future?
No, although what I did say to someone, texted me for some advice on something, and I said to them, one of my favorite pieces of advice I got from somebody is pretend that a Martian has arrived in your living room. And they're like, Suzanne, what is going on here? Please explain to me. And just the idea that you'd have to, well, okay, this is what we do in our culture. And so I've committed to doing this, or whatever it is. We might see it in a different way. We might find an answer we didn't know we knew.
That's a good point.
So telling in fact, what's interesting, I'm blabbing on, but my husband said to me last night, because I said, when I'm with my Tamily, I don't think that I'm older than them. I think I'm the same age as them. And then I go look in the mirror and I'm always shocked. But when I'm with them, I think, well, we're all the same age. And then I realized, when Miriam's talking about her 8-year-old twins, I'm like, oh, I remember when my daughter was 8, blah, 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 you know, or someone else. And then, but now I realize Miriam can't say to me, oh, I remember when I was 70.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm somewhere out there, but I forget that you know, so I think to say I'm just fortunate that I've stayed moving, you know, that, and that's what I would hope that people could get their mothers or their grandmothers to do, Tracy.
Yes.
Do start.
Yes. Just do free arms of start. Do
Oh my God. Yeah. It isn't just the territory of super beautiful model people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the benefits of movement. I mean, I can't imagine like what I would feel like, or, you know, just physically and mentally if I didn't move like this. So when you see someone that's like, you know, our mothers and our grandmothers, and they haven't exercised in 2 decades, like, you know, it's.
And they don't, you know, I think they think, well, that's not possible. But what I want to say to people is your body will change. I don't care if you're 80 years old.
Yes.
Train it. It will change. You can build it. You can be more flexible. You may never do the splits. Who cares?
Right. And it's in minutes a day. Like,
right.
Start with 2.
Exactly. Like learning a language. You know, I love when Tracy compares it to that, because we all can understand that we wouldn't, you know, if you decided to learn Chinese, you wouldn't beat yourself up if on the second week you weren't in advanced.
Right.
You wouldn't want to be. You'd feel stupid. And was it this week where she said, you can pretend, you can put yourself where you're pretending to be where you know you don't belong, and just faking it. And I was like, yeah, I think that, you know, I think I faked a little inattain before I probably should have maybe been there, because we're so driven to be like, I was like, well, I want to be an advanced.
Yeah.
And I had to like really talk myself into, no, you don't want to be an advanced Chinese if you don't know the vocabulary. Yeah. It won't be any fun.
Right. But you know, the conversation goes the other way too, because sometimes we pretend we belong and start and we don't.
Exactly. Yeah, like last week, I thought, oh my God, if you'd gone from start to IMC, you'd gone from a half hour to that, you might be thinking, oh darn, I can't do this, you know.
Right.
And that's when having other people around is really helpful, right?
Yeah, it makes a complete difference because we're all in it together. You're not alone.
Exactly.
So we have another question. This is from, I don't know how to say this name. Maybe Denny. The question is, do you take any supplements, and what are your nutrition preferences?
I do. I'm totally addicted to this thing called Basis.
Okay.
Which is nicotinamide, whatever. Anyway, one of my closest friends, her husband is a Nobel Prize winner in medicine, and he never took anything. And he said, I think this is good. I'm like, okay, if you say this is good, and it's to retard aging. So how do you know if it works? I've been taking it since 2015. I don't know what I would be feeling if I hadn't been taking it. I think it's good for your metabolism and whatever. I take that. I do, because I had gastric bypass, I'm more conscious of absorption. So I probably I take, you know, B's and iron and C and That's probably, and a multivitamin, you know.
Mhm.
I try to eat healthy, but I have a big sweet tooth. Mm. Um, I I do, you know what I do? My husband and I, we do like Hello Fresh or
Uh-huh.
Sunbasket Green Chef. We do that.
Yeah.
And he's a vegetarian, so I
Okay.
tend more to the plant world.
Hmm.
And my favorite day is if I do Tracy earlier, which isn't really my favorite Zoom group, is later.
Hmm.
So I usually do it later, but if I do it earlier, I like to have a smoothie afterwards and, you know, try to be relatively healthy so that I can enjoy some frosting later.
That's a great plan. I'm on that frosting plan too.
I mean, you know, cake is just a delivery system for the frosting. I love it.
Right, absolutely. Fit Mama Jama has a question for you, and then we are reaching our last few minutes. This has been a very, very fun hour that we're almost reaching. So her question is, do you ever do TAM cardio?
I I do a very rarely because the floor I have,
Hmm.
I've had, you know, split shins or whatever they're called. And I'm really like, no, I don't want to go there.
Hmm.
Don't want to hurt my knees or anything. So also, I really believe that most of the time with Attain or IMC, I am sweating. My heart rate is up.
Hmm.
I measure my heart rate every morning when I first wake up. I do the sleep cycle,
Okay.
and my average resting heart rate upon waking is 54,
Wow.
53. So I feel like I do get cardio.
Hmm.
Uh, if I had a studio,
Hmm.
I definitely would do it because I love to dance. And if I had a big wood floor, I would go nuts.
Hmm.
But on carpet, on
Hmm.
underneath concrete, with
Yeah.
no room to turn and really enjoy myself, I don't. I wish I did more.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll do it, you know, in the live the start of the live classes where she would do cardio after.
Yeah.
Feel like, well, I have to.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You're obligated
Or had
to.
a better place to do it in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Have you done many of the live classes?
Yeah, I have. I've done maybe, I don't know, a third of them, maybe
Okay.
half like
Okay.
that. Um, I have I'm more like a slow starter. I but I can go a long time.
Hmm.
I like that. But that's like when I see the arms are really peppy, I'm like, oh no. I like the slower arms. And then I can
Agree with
get,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, sometimes I like to do start arms and then intermediate legs because I'm like, I just don't want to use all that energy in the arm section.
exactly. I know. Sometimes, and if it's real cardio,
Hmm.
then because as I said, I can't turn on the carpet.
Hmm.
So sometimes I cut socks off and I put strips of socks around my shoes so I can actually turn.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just stuck there, you know, and then
Yeah.
I think that's really hard on your knees.
Hmm.
You're
Oh,
trying
totally.
to rotate, but you're not.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That's.
So sometimes even in a chain, you know, where you're here and then you're
Hmm.
switching around. I usually do that barefoot because
Hmm.
I I can't swivel.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. With shoes on. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes on my knees too, and that's when I know I'm putting way too much down weight on my knees when I can't swivel.
Yeah. That's a good measure of that too. It's funny, you have to be conscious of that like every day. Like there's never a point where you learn and then it's just easy from then on.
Exactly.
Well, we are reaching our last few minutes. I wanted to ask you, have you experienced any challenges in doing the method?
Yeah, especially my husband would laugh getting there, you know. So especially when it's just me with me, I'm more inclined to go, I mean, it takes me 20 minutes of arguing there. Once I'm there, I'm staying. But so knowing that I have a Zoom invite is hugely motivating because I'm not going to come in the middle of it. That would be rude. So I and I love it's kind of like going to the studio. You get there, you talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You start. When it's over, you talk for 5 minutes more. You take a picture, and you feel really good. And so I think that has changed my getting there, because then it's more like, oh, what time am I working out? Oh, I'm working out at 4. Okay, it's in my book.
Right.
Whereas it's just me and me. It's a little, I've never been very good at keeping the promises to myself. I'm better at keeping promises to other people. That's why I was so impressed with Yaslin when she was like, are you, no, that's the easy part. I'm like, what?
Right. Yeah, that's all of our differences.
100%. So we get to learn from each other, which is just fantastic.
Absolutely. And that is a huge reason why we want to have these interviews and keep getting to know as many Tamily members as we can. So Kathy, while you have this audience, is there anything else you would like to say or share with the Tamily?
I think it's really like, if you could invite other people my age, I don't think there's many over 70 tamming people. I even asked Tracy if she knew of any. But I think the idea is like, that movement is so important, and it isn't just the exclusive, it's not just healthy people or pretty people or flexible people or like that. It can be any person. And so the invitation to just start, because I think people see Tracy, they see all these other things, and they go, oh my God, no way, I can't do that. Or they get into it too much and they actually hurt themselves, which you could do if you didn't know your own body. But by starting arms, you might get a little sore in your shoulder, but that's something you're more comfortable with. Most of us know more about our arms than we do about our abs.
Yeah.
And so invite those older women in your life to because it will serve them. My mother walked a half mile at age 95 the day before she died. So moving.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's true. Like, letting people know this isn't just about people who work out for 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is really about movement and connecting with each other.
Exactly. And you don't have to ever get to attain to have all the benefits.
Right.
So
Kathy, you are a super huge inspiration to the Tamily, and even more so now that I've got to talk to you for 58 minutes.
I know, it's been great. And all of you, like the people, I mean, you turn on Instagram and you see somebody you've never seen before, and you go, wow, I am going to work out today. I wasn't going to, but that invited me.
Yep, exactly.
And I think it's so powerful. It's like a big invitation. It's not a comparison. And that is what I love about, come on in. It's okay.
Well, it's so nice to learn that I was one of the first people that you were seeing trying to pull people into the world of Tamily.
You, Emily, and Liz. That's how, and Nicole. That was my first, and then my Zoomies now, they're everything.
Yeah. Amazing women. Well, thank you for your inspiration to this community, Kathy. We're probably going to have to interview you again just to get some more questions in.
It was so much fun. It was so great. Zoomed by.
Absolutely. Well, right now it's going to go on to the Ask Tamily page, And then in a few days, it'll go on YouTube forever and ever.
Forever and ever.
Thank you, Kathy.
Suzanne.
Thanks, Tamily.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.